I told that guy.
Me and Harold Valley.
I never heard of a preacher that will not.
Wow, really?
I mean, just flatly go, say,
What is the
I've heard you
religion?
preach
Do
it, if
you
you're
know?
going, you do all right, but I don't do that.
What is the religion? Who is
I, church of what's happening now, I guess, I don't know.
Oprah Winfrey.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
So, again, just, I've got 5 minutes and I think I can do it.
Faith in you.
Take 6.
Take 6. What are they gonna do? Do that, report you off the stage, right?
Cuff him.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it, take 10.
Well, tell him your watch stopped, your Rolex.
Oh, Crystal, you'd ask Byron about his joke he had this morning.
Yes. Yes.
That's not me. He's done, he's, this last month, he's been full of jokes. Yeah, Byron.
Full of something.
Full of bull.
He's beginning to relax as a kid.
Yeah, that's right. You know, that's the thing. You know, he's in a safe spot. He's a guest. You know, what can you do to a guest? You know?
Escort him out.
Escort him out. Well, got him sitting over by himself so far. You know?
We have put him on steady.
Oh, well, just to update you, my mom, we did get her moved to long-term care on last Friday, and then we did follow through with what they told us to do, and that was to call for a hospice consult. And not that, again, in my eyes, my sister's eyes, it's not like we need hospice. You know, we're to that point where they said, hey, you just get better, get more benefits with hospice coming in. Again, yeah, they come in, they have a nurse that comes in once a day and checks her. Actually, they've been coming in twice a day. They just started Tuesday. I went out Monday afternoon, get medication through them, and they can get like a better mattress for her bed, and they come out and bathe her 3 times a week. And so, so that, you know, that's some better care. Now again, you know, me and my sister are kind of like, you know, not super excited about how the words they use all the time, you know. And so it's like, okay, we don't, you know, again, mixed opinions, but again, it could be that what we're looking at, what we're seeing, what we want to see may not be exactly the truth, you know, sometimes. You get distracted by that sometimes, so I don't know. So, but yeah, I've made it the last couple of days just to go out there for a few minutes. And so, but then, you know, pray for her roommate. She's got a roommate in there. Her name's Susie. I don't know her last name. But Susie's in there, and Susie keeps an eye on Mom, because Mom can't do anything for herself, but Susie will kind of keep an eye, and Susie will push the nurse's button if she thinks my mom needs it. So that's good. That is good. Yeah, yeah. So, and then kind of interesting, they also have a chaplain that comes out and checks on her, I guess, now. And my sister, you know, he was asking about our religious background and stuff. My sister goes, well, what affiliation are you? He's a Greek Orthodox. A little different, so. Yeah, and he's from Hinton, I didn't realize. So, yeah.
Uzo.
So again, you know, interesting things there that we'll see, and so just, again, hopefully we can just, you know, again, we really don't have a clue what's going on with my mom. We just know she's there, she's not there mentally, or, you know, I don't know. Just knows, you know, again, my sister called one of my mom's friends the other day, it was in the city, and FaceTimed her. My mom, from what my sister said, my mom knew this lady, talked to her, recognized her, no problem. But then me, who are you, sir? So, yeah, so I went out Sunday night, she did talk to me a little bit, but not much, so. Well, all right, tonight we're gonna look at Genesis 22, we're gonna jump forward here, and again, Eddie kept me busy, so this last couple of days, Gave me a good workout. So, like I lifted weights, did some squatting a little bit. I did do some squatting though, didn't I? So, again, chapter 22, we're just going to look at verses 1 through 19 tonight. And kind of, in this section, there's a lot of stuff you can look at. A lot of different avenues how you can look at it, I think. But the thing is, we're right here at the, close to the end of Abraham's life, okay? In this, he's had Isaac, and, I don't think it really gives a definite age of Isaac, but probably, old enough to, again, in the story, it's going to say he carried the wood. So, old enough to carry some wood, maybe 9, 10 years old. So at that, you just think
19?
9 or 10, probably at the least, at the least amount, probably. And so again, remember that would put Abraham about 110 years old, okay? And again, so that would put him on this journey with God for about 35 years, okay? So, a while, a good steady relationship there. And with that, man, what we've read, a little bit we've read, but then there's some we've skipped, also a lot of ups and downs, a lot of learning, a lot of, Abraham missteps, again, learning to trust God and listen to Him. And tonight we're going to see kind of the culmination of that here a little bit. Let's read verses 1 through 3. Who wants to read that for me? Chapter 22 of Genesis, verses 1 through 3.
Sometime later, God tested Abraham. He said to him, Abraham, here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah, sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. And early the next morning, Abraham got up and loaded his donkey. He took with him 2 of his servants and his son Isaac, and when he had cut enough wood for the burnt offering, he set out for the place God had told him about.
Okay, so let me pray and then we'll dive in this. God, I just pray, God, we can just be able to see and hear what you have to say to us through this, God. I pray you give me the words to say, and I trust you for this time, God. And give me changed by you and you alone. In my prayer. Amen. So, last night I went to bed and I don't know if this is where it came from or not. I was talking to this lady that my mom was friends with, Pam, and I kind of said this, and it's kind of weird because again, my mom, is not dead, but sometimes lately I've caught myself talking in the past tense about her, a little bit, and I kind of like, not right, But I said to my mom's friend, as I was talking to her and discussing some stuff with her, I said, my mom, when she did stuff, she was all in. I mean, it's just one of those things, if one of us kids was involved in something when we were younger, my mom was all in. I mean, she did everything she could, and was involved as much as she could help out, and if she knew if somebody needed help, she was, helped as much as she could, And that's the question that last night as I went to bed, this was just on my mind so much. And I want you to think about this, and I was going to say it to the end, but I put it at the top of my notes here. Is this question here, are you all in with God? Are you all in with God?
I'll be,
Yeah, I mean, it is hard to know, if you're all in. And again, once you, it's kind of like, I would say with humility. Once you say, man, sorry, Earl, when you say, man, I'm humble, I'm a humble guy. You know what? And I say, you just lost it.
Huh?
You're not humble anymore, because you know what? You said, I'm there, I've arrived at it. And again, I think with when you say, are you all in with God? You can't say, man, I'm all in, I'm there. Because then, you feel like you've accomplished something, you've landed. And all of a sudden, where do you have to go? And again, you know, our relationship with God is continuous, it's daily, growing with Him daily. You know, it's not like, you know, but again, all in, and I think that's the thing today, tonight as we look at this here, as we look at Abraham, and you know, if we think back to what we've read, you know, and again, we didn't read all of his story, but we read about half of it, and think about the things that he's done in the first part there. Okay, again, you know, here tonight, you know, God calls out, you know, God tested Abraham, and so He says to Abraham, you know, calls his name out, and Abraham says, "Here I am." And then in verse 2, "Take your son," he said, "your only son Isaac, whom you love, go to the land of Moriah, and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about." And then verse 3. Verse 3. The first line there. "So Abraham got up early in the morning." And you know, you see the rest of that verse, he got stuff prepared to go.
Well, notice he didn't say wake up.
True? True? Well, I mean, you know, again, he got up early in the morning, so again, you know, was he tossing and turning that night? You know, and again, you know, it's hard for us to imagine this. But again, you know, one thing, I think the last time we talked, remember when they had Ishmael, what happened? Sarah says, "Hey, why don't I give you my maidservant, Hagar, and we can have a child that way." And you know, you see here, Abraham doesn't discuss with anybody. As far as we know from what the scripture says, he doesn't discuss with anybody. God talks to him, he goes and does. And again, like I said, he's been on this journey with God, learning and growing, you know, just as we should be doing. And now, you know, he's kind of like, you know, I don't need to discuss this with anyone. You know, again, as I put on here, no discussion with anyone, just obedience. Abraham has learned, he's grown in his faith, and he's matured. Okay? And so again, he just goes and does what God says because he knows, you know, and again, one of the things here is just that I wrote down, faith does not demand explanations. Faith rests on promises. God doesn't have to explain himself to us. He's promised.
He had covenant with Abraham.
Yeah,
His seed, didn't it? Say which seed.
Yeah. yeah, and that's one of the things too, is, you know, as people talk about that, you know, in this, again, he talks about your only son Isaac. You know?
The
Yeah.
son of promise.
Yeah, and again, you know, by this time that he sent Ishmael and Hagar away, but again, this is the one that they're focused on in a sense. And, you know, the other thing I will remind us too, is that these servants that went with them.
For somebody else who sacrificed his only son.
Yes, yes, we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that because, you know, it's just, I hadn't brought it together, but as I was studying, I was like, you know, it's so weird how we get to this part, and then what's coming here in a couple of weeks, you know? But again, remember the servants too, I think it's important to remember. Remember, they're circumcised. And so they've got that promise too, that blessing. So in that, so you've got some men here that are, you know, they're all circumcised, they're all got a blessing put upon them. And so one of the things that I was studying, it said this, and again, I think it's something for us to think about too. So let's read that story. It says this: Abraham's trust was to be weighed in the balance against common sense, human affection, and lifelong ambition. An act against everything earthly. So what God's calling him to do is, you know, is not common sense, is it?
I think the question that everybody asks themselves when they read this story, I know I do, is could I have done it?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, again, yeah, you know, and again, that's the thing there, you know, it's not against, it's against common sense, it's against human affection, and lifelong ambition. I mean,
God frowns on that, too,
on what?
on human sacrifice.
Okay, I'm gonna get to that real quick too, while you mention that. Because, again, that's something to think about though, okay? Because again, where did Abraham come from?
Right?
Where did he come from? A pagan society. And so again, he would have known about human sacrifice.
Well, and it does say in the text in verse 21, that he left, after he got his name changed and after the child of Ishmael is gone, he packs things up and he moves to Beersheba and amongst the Philistines and the Philistines or whatever you want to call them. And these were known to pass their children through the fire as a sacrifice to Ashtal and Baal. So in that mix of that surrounding, God asked Abraham to take his son and sacrifice it to him. And that's, you're like, well, God, you're not like Baal. You're not like Ashtal. Why would you ask me to do that? But he doesn't question. He just,
Yeah, doesn't question. And again, again, talk about the Philistines, but also where he came from. That was a common thing, that we practice is human sacrifice. And again, it really wasn't set yet. My thing said, righteous people who belong to the Lord, this was wrong to do. There really wasn't a set thing yet for God, not to have human sacrifices. Because, again, this is the beginning of it, in a sense. And so, but again, a human sacrifice, man, Abraham knew about that. He knew how that worked and what was done. So it wasn't like, what? What are you talking about? He'd seen it, And you know what? We don't know his earlier on life. He may have done it to somebody, or been a part of that.
I think that's taking a pretty big lead there.
Well, it could be, but I'm just saying, I don't know what, we don't know what he was like, 75, the first 75 years,
You know what the Bible tells you, right?
So, but again, this here says God's command took precedence over human custom. So think about that. God called him to do it, so he's going to go do it. Okay? And so he makes the 50-mile trip to Moriah. They load the donkeys up and head that away. And again, I think this is a, this is a long trip. I mean, just think, they're traveling the 50 miles, it's going to take 3 days. We really don't know how long it took them to go up the mountain and back down, how long time they spend, and then 3 days back. A lot of travel, a week gone. There's no cell phone, nothing like that. What do you think Sarah's thinking?
Why'd she do that?
Huh?
Why'd she do that?
Why'd she do that?
Yeah, why would she make the trip? I mean,
Oh, she didn't make the trip.
Oh.
Yeah, she didn't make the trip. Just Abraham, Isaac, and the 2 servants made it. But again, before we read, is Abraham didn't say, "Hey, Sarah, I'm taking Isaac. We're going to go over that mountain. I'm going to sacrifice him."
You may not have told her anything.
Yeah, he may just, because it says he just got up early that morning, cut some wood, and got some people together, the guys, and they took off, it sounds like to me. There wasn't no discussion, and he may have left a note, said, "See you in a week." I don't know. But I think the thing too is, as I think about that is, he knows what's happened before when he's discussed it with other people, what God's plans are. And now he's learned, what? This is a relationship, again, as it is for us Christians, it's a relationship between me and God. And what God calls me to do, that's what I'm called to do. And, again, what does the scripture say? Don't look to the left or to the right. Focus on God. And I think that is where Abraham is. And I think, again, by this time in his life, I think he was all in with God. I mean, this is it. And it may be more all in when he gets up to the mountain. And God provides that ram.
There's a scripture somewhere, and I don't know for sure where it's at, whether it's here or in the New Testament, but it says that Abraham's faith was attributed to him for righteousness.
Yes, yes.
Romans 4.
So,
I know there's some in there in Hebrews. Talks about
yeah,
that.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that may be right. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
So,
His
Yeah.
faith is what we should focus on.
yeah, yeah,
And-
Yeah.
And I think that spills over into Sarah as well.
yeah. Maybe
She has faith also.
she's learned her lesson or learned, and her faith has grown, yeah. Yeah, because as we go on down through here, let's look here at, verse 7 here a little bit. And so I want to read, 7 through 9.
But Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, My father? And he said, Here I am, said my son. He said, Look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering. So the two of them went together. Then they came to the place of which God had told him. Abraham built an altar there and placed the wood in order. And he bound Isaac, his son, and laid him on the altar, on the wood.
Yeah, and so, again, and I skipped a verse there. Let's see that. Okay, verse 5, let's do that really quick. That's an important verse too. Then Abraham said to his young men, Stay here with the donkey, the boy and I will go over there to worship, then we'll come back to you. So again, how about that faith, that trust that Abraham's got is, again, he tells the men, hey, we're going to go up here and worship, and we'll come back. Okay? And then Isaac says what? Dad, we got the fire, we got the wood, but the lamb we do not have. And what does Abraham say? The Lord will provide. And just think about that. I mean, both were things that, were not mentioned in God's plan. God says, hey, I want you to go up there and sacrifice your son. But, again, as I said a while ago, the promises that we have, that God has given Abraham, is, maybe that's what more Abraham's looking at, is those promises. Hey, you've promised me, a descendant, and many, many descendants, a great nation will come from this. And I'm looking to that. I'm looking beyond what's happening today, because you promised that. Is that a possibility? That he's looking towards that promise? He's trusting God in what God's promised him. And not looking at the situation today.
That promise didn't necessarily include Isaac, though, when it was made. I mean, there could have been another child or some other way. It didn't necessarily include Isaac.
True.
Which we know it did.
Yeah.
But when the promise was made, there was no mention of Isaac.
No, there wasn't. No, there wasn't. But again, then when they were getting ready to conceive, he had a name for him and all that. So, but again, and that child from Sarah also. So, I think about that. Those are important things to think about. Those two things he said is, hey, we'll be back, and God's going to provide the rain. And we don't got either one of those. None of that stuff was, again, promised to Abraham. That was part of the direction. And it says, he went up there and arranged the wood. He bound Isaac up and placed him on top of the wood. And then in verse 10, here we go. I always, again, this whole part here is always kind of picture in my mind, a little movie in my mind, like, man, I'd love to, I don't know, been a leaf on one of the trees if there was one close by, just to watch and see how long this went down. Just one of those things. Because I know right now, if I took my little 7-year-old boy up there, and y'all know him, and said, son, I'm gonna tie you up and throw you over this altar, he would have had a million questions and ran around and,
And then screaming at everybody.
yeah. And, but then, and that's there, verse 10 says, then Abraham reached down and took the knife to slaughter his son. And just think, you plug that knife and you're ready to do that. And again, man, again, that all in with God. And I'm focused on what God's called me to do, and I'm trusting Him.
Well, why would he say, we will come back? And then why would he say, God will provide a lamb?
Well,
If he goes ahead and takes up the knife, did he think somehow that if God, if he was gonna go through with the killing of Isaac, that God would raise him back from the dead?
that's what some commentaries say, is that they thought, Abraham thought, well, you know what? I'm gonna fall through with this, and God's gonna raise him back from the dead. and we're gonna-
Because it's his only son.
Yeah.
Ishmael's a son, but this is, you're unique,
Yeah, for him and Sarah.
him and Sarah.
Yeah.
I don't think he understood exactly what was going on, but in some of the previous chapters that we went through, when Ishmael came along, God said, oh, no, I'm gonna bless you through your son Isaac.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, if you're gonna believe God, then, something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's gonna be through Isaac, it's not through anybody else.
And actually, to be a true type and shadow of Jesus Christ, he would have raised him from the dead.
Yes.
Well, like you say, that 7-year-old of yours would kick and scream and ask a bunch of questions. It seemed like to me like Isaac was like, okay. I mean, you don't see, there's no mention in here, he was a willing participant
Yeah, yeah.
in his own death.
And that's one of the things too, kind of as Ken's getting at too, and again, again, there's a little comparison some commentaries do, between Abraham and Isaac and God the Father and Jesus Christ. There. Because again, like you said, they're, from what we read, okay, and again, I think it has to be that way. There's that obedience and trust of Isaac to his father. Okay, but also, again, again,
Same thing with Jesus Christ
Yeah.
and his father.
yeah, there's that same thing.
There almost, it seems as though that there's the same kind of relationship between Isaac and his father as there was between Jesus and his father. It doesn't say so in the Bible, but there almost seems to me that there has to be, Isaac has to have some kind of an understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, and the thing is, I just want to say again, I mentioned this last time, is that example that Abraham lived. In trusting God, in that time that Isaac's been alive. And again, probably too, again, stories, passed down, he's heard the stories of what has happened on this journey with God, with Abraham and Sarah. And he sees what happens to his dad, and I think he sees that, and he knows he can trust his dad, but he can also trust the God his dad is trusting and believing and put his faith in. And so it so much affects his life. He goes, man, if God's told my dad to do this, we're going to do it. We're going to do it.
So much of what was known back then was kind of word of mouth. So
Yep.
I would guess that Isaac had heard, his father had probably told him about his experiences with God by this time.
Yeah, that's the thing, again, that's important for us to remember, is that God, all this stuff was oral. You would come, again, just like the New Testament, those letters that Paul wrote. He just wrote one letter. He didn't write 50 copies.
Right, exactly.
He wrote one letter, and it'd be delivered, to that church. And you know what? They would read that letter when it arrived, and people would listen. You know, back then, this time, people listened so they could hear what was being said, but also so they could go and tell others what was said, what was in the letter. Because there was no other way to remember. You know, and if you wanted to go get that letter and, hey, what did it say at this point in time? You could go read it, but it wasn't, you know, most likely it wasn't going to be passed around. It was staying there, you know, probably in the church, in the temple, you know, where it was at, you know, during that time. And so that's the thing to remember. And, you know, for us, you know, we have it easy. You know, again, you know, God tells us to hide His word in our hearts. But you know what? Why don't you waste my time with that? I got this right here. I can carry it around wherever I want to go. I can look it up. You know, I've got a computer. I can type in, hey, when the Bible says this, where's that verse found at? And you know what? I don't have to hide His word. You know, I don't have to hide His word. But you know what? God calls us to hide His word in our heart. So huh?
You may not always.
You may not, that's right. That's exactly right. You may not always have that computer. You may not. But again, also, you know, when God's word's in our heart, it affects our actions. It affects what we do. It speaks to us. You know? And again, so that's the thing, again, we got to remember, you know, that, you know, the oral stories and stuff, and I could go on about that, you know, how much of our world is illiterate. You know, we live in a world that, I know at least 60% of our world is illiterate. Can't read it all. And so just think about that. Huh? Illiterate. Illiterate.
When you say illiterate, I think that's maybe computer-wise or something.
Oh, no. But no, you know, cannot read it all. You know, and just think about that. It doesn't matter how many Bibles you give them. They don't know what it says. And so they have to hear.
Well, it's not Crystal's fault. She's trying to teach.
She is. Because what's my other word you hate? Lantern. Lantern. Did I say it right? There's a lantern. Yeah. So, but again, and so, you know, we see that story and we see what God does. Again, I want to finish this out really quick. I'm going to read 12 through 19. Then he said, do not lay a hand on the boy or do anything to him, for I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your only son from me. Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught in the thicket by its horns. So Abraham went and took the ram and offered as a burnt offering in place of his son. And Abraham named that place, the Lord will provide. So today it is said, it will be provided on the Lord's mountain. Then the angel of the Lord called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, and this is important, by myself I have sworn, this is the Lord's declaration. Because you have done this thing and not withheld your only son, I will indeed bless you and make your offspring as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your offspring will possess the city gates of their enemies, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed by your offspring, because you have obeyed my command. Abraham went back to his young men, and they got up and went together to Beersheba. And Abraham settled in Beersheba. And you know, this is the thing I think a little bit, and this is what I thought about the other day, the last couple of weeks about this chapter. Isaac has seen what's going on the mountain. Abraham's seen what's going on the mountain. When God provides the ram and they offer that sacrifice, what do you think that moment was like?
Praising God.
Praising God. You know, and it may have been just an awe moment. Hey, we're just going to sit in silence and soak this up. You know, but also, I think about that journey down that mountain. What did they talk about? What did they do? And again, was it, man, God, Dad, did you see that? That was so awesome what God did. And you know, Dad, you said He would provide, and He did provide. And then you know what? They get down off that mountain, and what happens then? They got a 3-day journey home. And I'm gonna use my $10,000 word I got from college, ineffable, which means basically, if you weren't there to experience it, it's hard for me to explain it to you, basically. And so I'm thinking, you know what? These two servants that were with them, they got no clue what's happening. You know, Abraham and Isaac are talking about this stuff, and they're just like, what are you
They're gonna
talking
hear
about?
about it all the way home. though.
Yeah, they're gonna hear about it all the way home. It's gonna be like, you did what? You tied him up and put him on the altar?
And the other one's going, I'm not messing with him.
Yeah. But, too, though, and again, my light bulb just came on, though, too. These were men, too, that were part of Abraham's household. And they had seen how he'd lived life.
Do you know what's significant about Mount Moriah?
Yes, it's where the dome is at, and it's where the Muslims worship today, at Mount Moriah.
Well, where the Solomon's temple was.
Yes, yes.
Is this the same thing in here about what the mother about it said?
No, because I want to say this. I want to say it was that important to what God was doing in Abraham's life.
I think
Yeah.
Being a mother. and
Being a mother,
thinking
you're like,
Your
what?
child's gonna be put on a.
She didn't know it.
Yeah.
Like bonding time.
He probably just said, we're going on a journey, we'll be back in,
A week.
yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
how would you explain it if that man hadn't been there?
Well, you know what, Bessie? Probably what could have happened
I think you
though.
missed the whole point of the story there.
No, I didn't, I just wanted to know.
Well,
what-
the thing is, if the ram hadn't showed up, I think, and again,
I mean, I know you have to
possibility.
have a lot of faith in God to even think about doing that to his
But-
son.
but again, God may have came and spoke to Sarah. Possibly,
And
But-
really, we talked a while ago, I mean, if you want to start speculating, and you could speculate that he would have brought the boy back to life.
Yeah.
He would have resurrected him.
When they did, the human sacrifices, didn't they give them something to, like a sedative or something, not a sedative, but
No.
I've never read that, I mean,
Harold mentioned,
huh?
Baal and,
It seems
after all,
wrong.
the one that's also mentioned in Hezekiah's day is, Molech.
Moloch, yeah.
And, they literally had a fire built down in a pit. And they took them to the top, the precipice, and shoved them off in there.
That's the way they sacrifice.
That's the way they sacrificed them. And they were generally, during Hezekiah's day anyways, I recall, they were generally young children.
Mhm.
Well, they'd heat the coals up on Moloch's hand so hot, then they would take their newborn child
Just laying them.
and lay him up on the burn, and just burn him
So it was.
like a frying pan.
It was not quick. It was torturous.
He said it was so loud, and some of the screams of the baby and some of the things that were going on so loud that they would beat the drum so loud that they wouldn't hear it. But the parents couldn't hear their baby being actually burned to death.
A lot of times, I think it's the firstborn, wasn't it?
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, but on Hezekiah's day, it was the second one. No, yeah, it was the first one. I don't know what I'm talking about.
You're in pain.
Well, I don't know whether or not, I mean, I don't think you can read, let's not try to read into it any more that's already in there. I mean, there's enough juice in that story.
I agree with that.
We do a disservice by trying to say, well, Sarah would have done this, or,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
or, or what, we don't know what was going on in Abraham's mind, except for what the testimony that Paul and those that wrote the New Testament down said, that Abraham believed God and it was counted for him for
Yeah,
righteousness.
believe and trust it, you know.
And in the testimony here that Moses writes down that, you know, the angel of the Lord spoke from heaven and said, don't touch the child. I know now that you trust me. I think God knew that he trusted him before that, but I think I don't, sometimes it says like in the Garden of Eden when God says, where are you, Adam? It's not like God didn't know where Adam was at. I think he asked that question so that Adam would find out where he was at. And same here, he says, I know that you trust me now. I think God always knew that Abraham was trusting him. But I don't know if Abraham knew it. And so he had to go through this process, even to bring the knife up to the point of death. You know, before God stayed his hand, Abraham thought, well, can I really truly go through with this? Now I know I can trust God with everything, because he provided a way.
And, you know, something else I thought about New Testament wise, you got something?
I think that Isaac was an example to his father. And you think about the faith of a child, by his age, he did anything and everything his dad wanted him to do. He didn't care what was going on as long as he was with his dad. I mean, I've got a son and he was the same way. But the courage that it would have had to have taken for a father to take his son all the way up there, because you know he was afraid. And the only thing that could fuel his ability to do what he was asked to do was to have the faith that he had. And I think that Isaac was that example. I think Isaac was the faithful son that would do anything that his father wanted him to do. And I think Abraham had to come to that point where he was like his son with God. Whatever you say, God, whatever you want me to do, because a father's not going to a father won't let a son die. A father's not going to do something to their son that's going to hurt him, and God's not going to do something to Abraham that's going to hurt him either. And I think that it was a twofold example there, and Isaac was there for Abraham more than, you know, Abraham was there for Isaac.
Type and shadow of Jesus Christ.
The other thing I thought about, as we talk about this a little bit, is about Peter. We talk about, you know, going, are you all in? Think about Peter in his life. You know, he walked on the water. He, you know, denied Christ. And, you know, you see there at the end, you know, the last times that Christ talks to Peter and says, do you love me? He asked him 3 times, and you know, it seemed like Peter got more heated every time. You know I love you. And then the 3rd time, it's like, God, you know. Lord, you know what my heart is. You know, I think about that, is that confirming that God calling him and confirming him and you know, giving that condition there. And so again, those things, so again, we're looking at it in our lives and stuff. I do have this to show you. This is straight from the woods of Africa. This is a hand carved Abraham and Isaac little statue there. I saw that down when we went to Africa in 2008, so it's a little dirty, a little dusty. And but again, I saw that, I go, man, I got to have that. But then I've learned something. When you go to Africa, they believe in you know, you can offer what you want. It's not a set price on stuff. So the guy asked the guy, well, how much is that? And he told me how much. And I, you know, because I'm not one of those people that knows how to do that. You know, don't go to the garage and say, hey, I'll give you $3 for that thing you got marked 5. You know, Brian got to teach me how to do that, okay? You want how much for that brownie? How about $2? No. But again, he goes, hey, we can make it a little bit cheaper. I'm like, okay, so I end up buying it. But yeah, this is all hand carved. There's no machines or nothing. No electric tools used on it at all. And that's what those guys do out there in Africa and Tanzania and stuff. So, but again, thank you guys for being here. And you still have a question?
Are you aware
that this movie, His Only Son, that tells about this, is starting Friday and it's gonna be out here.
Which one? His Only Son?
Yeah.
Haven't heard about that one yet.
You heard
No?
that? Okay. It's what we're studying, it's these scriptures that we're studying.
And it's
start-
gonna be here in El Reno?
Yes, sir.
His Only Son. I'll look that up and check it out.
Well, we talked to Robert out there and he told us that. it was
Okay.
gonna be out
His Only Son.
there. His
So you
Only
guys
Son.
can check that out. We'll try to get some information about that.
One other thing, Harold mentioned in verse 15, the angel of the Lord called to Abraham the second time, just before he killed Isaac. In my Bible, the words angel of the Lord are capitalized. You know who that is?
Lord is capitalized, mine.
The angel of the Lord is capitalized. You know who that is?
Yeah.
Pre-incarnate Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yeah.
So,
And where is he? He spoke out of heaven. That's a cool part of it.
Right, exactly.
That's what we're learning in our language.
and again, you know, the other thing that's good is that every time somebody called Abraham's name, what did Abraham say? Here I am. So that's another thing. Where even to Isaac, he said, here I am. So, all right. Well, we're a little past time. The sun's still up, so if you live close by, you'll make it home before dark. If you live 10 minutes away, you may not. Good luck. 30 minutes? You better pack a breakfast. All right, let's pray. Get out of here. Dear Lord, we just come and thank you for this day. Thank you for this time. God, thank you for your word, God. And Lord, again, how much you revealed to us. Lord, also your love for us, God. And Lord, how we can trust your promises. And God, I pray that we would trust your promises so much that Lord, we would be totally sold out to you, God, trusting in all things, God. And Lord, I pray you help us when our faith is weak, God. And Lord, I pray for many that we know that, Lord, aren't trusting you, God. And Lord, you help us to be a witness to them. In your name I pray.